Hi, I'm Elio, and for the past 3 years I've tried lots of different apps, systems, and methods of learning to get great results with not too much effort. This led me to writing questions for myself, trying spaced repetition programs such as Anki, and writing and summarizing my notes. Now I don't do any of these techniques anymore, except for taking notes. But this note taking is not just taking notes, it's taking notes with active recall and spaced repetition already kind of built in. And RemNote is the app that makes this possible. Around this note taking with spaced repetition, I've set up my own system to learn optimally and prepare myself well for any exams. The system consists of two parts or periods. The period where I watch lectures and the period just before the exam. During lectures, I take notes, make flashcards, and review these. Just before the exam, I do more of a check if I know everything. I also make an exam or two to get accustomed to the kind of questions that will be on the exam and check if I've missed out on some topic or concept. Now to the first part. So before a lecture starts, I already, if the slides are uploaded for that lecture, look at the slides to kind of understand what it's about, to get some context for the lecture itself, and to set up the framework for my notes. So I look, what is it about, what categories or what concepts does this lecture talk about, and then I just make some headlines of these concepts so that I can later organize this information into these headlines. Creating such a framework or organization for information gives you clarity on where that information belongs. This is very important as it allows you to make sense of the information and remember it better. This stage should take about 3 minutes or less, so you do not want to go in depth here. It's just to give yourself an idea of what it's about and to prime yourself for the lecture itself. Then, if the course has a book, take some notes of the most important things from that book and put them in the notes in the framework that you just made. This allows you to already have some of the information from the lecture. But if you don't understand something, that's completely fine. You can even write down the question you have for the lecture and ask it in the lecture if that's a possibility, or you can just wait till the lecture and try to figure it out then. I don't always take notes from a book, for example when I'm short on time or when the course can easily be aced even without a book. But for full information and when the lectures alone are not enough, I will be taking notes from the book on the topic before the lecture. And this has been very useful. Now the final step in preparation of the lecture is, if I have already made some notes from previous lectures, then now is the time to test myself. So I do some active recall, specifically on not the last lecture notes set, but the lecture notes set before that. This builds in already some kind of spaced repetition. Now let's move on to the lecture. During the lecture, I take notes in RemNote. And anything in these notes that I want to remember, you can very easily convert into a flashcard in real time. Just by using these two greater than signs in RemNote, you can create a question for yourself. And you can test this in the future using spaced repetition. In general, I believe RemNote is an amazing note-taking app. It's not yet well known, but it provides amazing tools. It allows you to organize your notes effectively, create links between notes, and make these automatic flashcards. Once the lecture is finished, I check my notes from the previous lecture and try to understand everything in the notes. It's not a problem if I don't remember something, I can just pay some attention to it, but it's just a matter of going through everything and checking if I still understand everything in these notes. If I don't get or understand some part of these notes, I will look it up in slides, on the internet, or in the corresponding chapter of the book for that course. If I gain any sort of relevant extra understanding, I will obviously add it to my notes, and optimally in the form of flashcards if it's something that I know I don't know yet. This will also make the review of these notes before the next lecture more easy. Additionally, in this time period where I follow lectures, I set myself a daily goal of finishing about 50 flashcards. This takes about 5 to 10 minutes a day, and it greatly contributes to learning effectively and efficiently. Flashcards from the same notes documents will be shown sequentially, so you do not have to constantly switch contexts when you answer them. If you have one lecture from course 1, it will first go through all of these questions before going to another lecture of maybe the same course or a different course. You will always be kind of locked in context. Now on to the second part, really preparing for the exams. When the exams come around, usually and optimally about 2 weeks before the exams, but it also takes me sometimes till the day before the exam to really get this process started. I do 5 things to reinforce my knowledge and prime myself for great performance on the exam. First, I'll go through the slides once more to check if there's anything I have not yet added to my notes. If that's the case, I'll add it. Next, I'll quickly glance over all my notes to understand how the parts of each lecture relate to each other. So maybe it's useful to create a mind map yourself as well. I usually do this in my head, but sometimes I also write out a mind map just to give some extra clarity to where what information belongs. Based on the notes of the previous step and these flashcards that I have not yet answered correctly, I create one A4 sheet that summarizes and organizes the key points for the exam. So I will make a quick hierarchy of the concepts and how they relate to each other, as well as write down the things I have not yet fully understood or remembered. The 4th step, and one of the most important steps, is a practice exam. This should be very easy now as you have all the base knowledge and understanding, presumably, to make this. The final step is that I go through the A4 sheet I created and check my understanding per topic. Do I know what sub-information belongs to this category, belongs to this concept? Can I recall all that I wrote down for each topic on this A4 sheet? If not, I will go through the notes, book or slides again and update my knowledge and then just retry. If you do all this, you should be greatly prepared for your exams. It might seem like a lot, but if you have already done the active recall throughout your lectures, the final 5 steps should not be very difficult, and it should not take up too much time either. Additionally, you can simply choose to spread these 5 tasks over the 1 or 2 weeks prior to the exam, and this makes it incredibly achievable. This is my system. This might not work for you, so try to use these following takeaways and what I've said before to implement and make your own system. So, actively test yourself on both understanding and remembering content. Do this frequently and preferably using spaced repetition. Prepare for the exams by making practice exams. Next, create a system that offloads most of the workload to the start and middle rather than the end of the course. This gives you the time and energy to make amazing final preparations to make a great exam. Finally, make your system very doable. The system should be easy to follow, even if the workload becomes high. Really make it something you can stick to and try to maybe think about some parts of the system that you want to follow no matter what, and create additional want-tos for some other parts of the system. My want-to, for example, is to read the book for the course, but this has not always been possible for me as this is quite time-intensive and the extra rewards haven't been as large as I thought. I hope you found this video useful and can implement some of these practices into your study system. Good luck studying.